Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, a step closer in the government's proposal to shift to a federal system.
Just ask for a few months, then I will retire.
This after a consultative committee finishes its draft for a federal constitution.
Yung ating present constitution dito was more than 30 years ago.
Lawmakers are now raising concern on some of its provisions.
Wala hong built-in mechanism pang naiisip ang komisyon to prevent double taxation.
And is it paving the way for possible term extensions? Consultative Committee member Professor Edmund Tayao joins us live. And later, from robot police to medical scanners, artificial intelligence plays a bigger role in Dubai. That's for today's In Focus. Thank you for joining us. Sitting in for Pinky Webb, I'm Ruth Cabal. The Consultative Committee tasked to review the 1987 Constitution has approved the proposed charter change that adopts a federal system of government. Our Joyce Ilas tells us about its highlights and what happens next.
The draft constitution is approved by the Consultative Committee.
In a swift motion, the 22-member Consultative Committee to review the 1987 Constitution, or CONCOM, has unanimously approved the proposed charter, which establishes a federal form of government. CONCOM Chairman Renato Puno says the current unitary system failed as the national government has too much power.
The antidote is federalism, because the essence of federalism is non-concentration of powers.
According to the proposed constitution, the country will have 18 federated regions, based on the current number of regions, including the Negros region. Puno says the federated regions will have the power to impose and collect certain taxes and approve their own budget.
The division, however, assures the regions that they will not only survive, but that they will be economically viable and sustainable in their journey from unitarianism to federalism.
The president is still the head of government and elected by direct vote of the people. The president will have a 4-year term and may be re-elected only once. The difference from the current setup, CONCOM wants the president and the vice president elected as a tandem, similar to that in the United States. The CONCOM also proposes that senators be elected per region. The draft constitution also bans political dynasties. A sitting politician cannot be succeeded by his wife, sons, or daughters. The next step, the proposal will be sent to the president for his approval. Should the president want changes, CONCOM member and former Associate Justice Antonio Nachura says the committee is open to accept them, except for one, the repeal of the anti-political dynasty provision.
This group of 22 unanimously approved the political dynasty provision. I don't think we will. It will be a very, very heavy debate.
President Duterte is expected to endorse CONCOM's proposed constitution to Congress. The people will then ratify or reject Congress's final draft. Puno says he hopes a plebiscite to approve the proposed charter will be held in the middle of next year, separate from the 2019 midterm elections, so the public can focus on its merits. Joyce Ilas, CNN Philippines.
President Duterte will try to convince his allies in Congress to adopt revisions proposed by the CONCOM. Presidential spokesman Harry Roque says they expect the CONCOM's proposals to be very persuasive in the House of Representatives, with PDP Laban forming a super majority there. Roque adds they only hope it would be the same in the Senate. In other news, the Philippine National Police says politics could be the motive behind the killing of 13 Martires Vice Mayor Alex Lupigan. He's one of at least 6 local officials gunned down in broad daylight in less than a week. Arcian Arcangel reports.
The police are looking at politics as the primary motive behind the killing of Trece Martires City Vice Mayor Alexander Lubigan. Police Chief Superintendent Edward Carranza, the acting director of Calabarzon Police, says Trece Martires City is known for its intense political rivalries. So the police believe Lubigan's recent pronouncement to run as mayor in 2019 had something to do with his killing. Carranza says there's no information that Lubigan is involved in the illegal drug trade. Police also say the vice mayor, as a businessman, is not known to have enemies. Lubigan and his driver were ambushed along the Trece Martires Indang Road while they were on board a black Toyota Hilux pickup truck close to 3 p.m. Saturday. Here's a statement from Director Carranza.
Tinitingnan natin dito, wala naman siyang dero sa regarding illegal drugs. We received report na he manifested that he'll be running for mayor in 2019 election. So yan ang isang angulong tinitingnan natin. Wala siyang known enemy and wala siyang pagdating sa kanyang mga negosyo, wala rin siyang kaaway. So dito muna tayo tututok sa anggulo ng politika. Ito kasing Trece Martires sa history ng talagang intense political rivalry. Usually ang election dito walang laban.
Based on their initial investigation, the police say the vehicle used by the gunman had no conduction sticker and plate. They are still conducting a follow-up operation to arrest the suspects. The police say they will get more information from Lubigan's family in the next few days. His family members are still in shock over his death and have so far refused to talk to the media. Cian Arcangel, CNN Philippines.
The Consultative Committee formed by the President to review the 1987 Constitution has finished drafting their proposed federal constitution. Lawmakers raised some concerns on the draft constitution and the country's readiness to shift to a federal form of government. Also, will charter change pave the way for term extensions of current elected officials? Let's go straight to the source of the story. Consultative Committee member Edmund Tayao. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, so the Consultative Committee has finished its draft of what will be called as the Federal Philippine Constitution. What's next, Professor?
Actually, just to clarify, this is just the first draft. What we still intend to do, and I think this is part of the whole process, is for us to go around. There have been several constitutions before, criticisms before, which basically argues that we're called Consultative Committee, but we're not doing consultations. But you don't do consultations unless there's already a draft to be the basis of consultations. No, you don't just go around and ask people whether they're in favor of federalism, because there's simply so many details as far as federalism is concerned, and there's just so many different models of federalism to begin with. So what we did was to come up with the first draft, and we've had like 4 consultations so far. We've heard so much from the different stakeholders, and what we intend to do is we go back to meet again and find out how to factor in some of the inputs coming from these consultations.
But what will happen with the first draft? Will this already be presented to the President?
Yes, we will be
Congress?
presenting it to the President this afternoon. If there will be some changes later, might be more in the configuration of the proposed federated regions, or probably some other minor details. But as it is already, the framework is there, and it's not like we're starting from scratch in the first place. There have been several drafts before, not only for a federal form, but for a parliamentary system. So what we did was to cull from these different studies and different drafts from before. And there have been several initiatives to come up with the federal form of government in the Philippines, even during the time of Rizal. So, in other words, there's enough basis for the Consultative Committee to come up with the framework that we are proposing this time.
So paano po pag may mga hindi magustuhan si Presidente, and then will you present it already to Congress?
Sa totoo lang, hindi ko masasabi, hindi namin masabi kung paano mangyayari, kasi ang mandato naman ng Consultative Committee ay bumalangkas ng bagong saligang batas at ipakita kay Pangulo, at tingnan natin kung anong gagawin ng Pangulo dito, at lalo na ng Kongreso malaunan na kapag ito ito ay nasa kanila na.
Kasi pwedeng ipabago pa rin ni Presidente kung may makita siya. And then it goes back to you before he gives it to Congress.
That's right. That's right.
Professor, isa dun sa mga lumabas kasi na issues about this last week. No? Sabi nga, parang kumbaga while we were sleeping with all the reported killings, naipasa na pala itong draft na federal constitution. Yung term extension ng officials. Kasi nga, ang lumabas talaga na balita ay baka daw ma-extend ang term ni President Duterte and Vice President Leni
Unang-una,
Robredo.
yung sinasabi na while we're sleeping na ipasa na, ito ay rekomendasyon namin. Dadaan ito sa plebisito, kaya hindi po pwedeng while you're sleeping meron ka ng bagong saligang batas. So, hindi ko alam kung saan galing yon. Ngayon, yung sa transitory provisions, pag tinignan mo, napaka-general nung pagkaka-frame namin. Kasi nga, hindi naman kami ang final na magdedesisyon dito. Kongreso pa din. Okay? We're of no illusion that whatever draft that we come up with would be the entire new constitution that will be adopted in the end. No. So, if you look at the transitory provisions, you can interpret it either that all those elected under the 1987 Constitution, the rules under the 87 Constitution still applies to them. Or you could interpret it as is already being explained by the press release recently by the Office of the Chair, the Consultative Committee, that however which way you try to look at it, all over the world, each time that you have a new constitution, that means you have an entirely new political environment, new rules of the game, and therefore the rules of the game before no longer applies.
Pero
So
kahit
it's a matter of interpretation.
Pero kahit nga sinasabing may new rules, kasi nga baka it might allow the previous officials to run for re-election under the new system. Pero before you answer, sir, balikan lang natin kasi mismong si President Duterte is saying he doesn't want to extend his
Ilang
term.
beses na rin namin narinig yan sa
Okay, let's
kanya.
listen to the President.
Make me stop being president during the transition. So I urge Congress ang kay Puno ngayon, committee, to make the final changes. Make me president only next year, 2019.
So just to make it clear, Professor, ano po ba talaga yung provision? No re-election, no term extension? Ano pong nakalagay doon sa draft?
Ang nakalagay doon sa draft, basically, we're adopting the same general framework as all new constitutions. Kaya nga, yung interpretasyon ng CONCOM ay, ibig sabihin, lahat ng mga na-elect sa dating saligang batas, rules pa ang nag-a-apply sa kanila, yung rules ng saligang batas ngayon. Pero yun na nga.
So no re-election?
So, you can interpret it that. Kaya nga uulitin ko, yung transitory provisions kasi, ang magtatapos niyan ang Kongreso later. Okay? Ang papel namin, gawin yung buong framework.
So what does it say now?
That's what I'm saying. They interpret it. Perhaps what we can do is we'll be transmitting the draft and you wait for the exact wordings there and we can judge it from there.
Okay, pero it doesn't specifically say.
No, it doesn't say everyone can run again. No.
But it also doesn't say na no re-election.
Yun na nga.
Okay.
Kahit naman anong saligang batas ang tingin, it will be open
Kasi
to
nga sabi
interpretation.
nyo, totally new, back to zero.
Exactly.
Okay, so i-interpret pa natin
Kahit sa 1987 Constitution, at in fact, yung transitory provisions namin, hango din doon sa 1987 Constitution. Kasi you're transitioning from an old setup to another. Mabuti sana kung from scratch yun, mas madali kang magsabi ng specifics. No, hindi. You have to transition from an existing system to a new one.
Okay, so busisiin po natin yung mga pangunahing provisions. But first of all, what do we really want to achieve with this federal presidential form of government?
Marami. Mabago natin yung political behavior. Basically, halimbawa, yun lang basic na pag-elect mo ng presidente at vice-presidente na hindi nahiwalay. Okay? And in fact, we adopted this, including the election of executive positions down to the local levels. And when you elect your mayor, you're electing also the vice mayor. So you elect them as tandem. Because the net effect of which is that they campaign as a team, and when they campaign as a team, you don't elect only for the personality, you elect for the team and therefore their platform of governments and so on. Apart from that, you eliminate the usual tendency tendency for conflict, no, as far as electing the two different officials, which is consistent with our main proposal in the. You see, this new constitution is a package. Ang tawag lang natin federalism. So, pero ang tingin ng tao, pag federalism, yung relasyon lang ng national at local level ang binabago mo. Hindi. You have to change the rules of the game so that you get to have a fresh start. So, political parties are now public institutions. They are not just like a private institution, like whoever's funding it, has basically the one controls how the party works. This time around, the political party as a public institution can raise its own funds, but subject to the same accounting and auditing procedure as any public office is. That means eventually, this political party can really be an independent institution, and can develop its own professional bureaucracy, its standards for nominating candidates for whichever level of elected office there may be. So, apart from that, we had to change the rules of the game because we're downloading so much powers at the regional level. Pagka hindi mo binago yung rules niyan, babalik ka sa warlords, babalik ka sa usual strongman politics. Okay. No, we bring down powers, but we promote collegial powers.
So let's talk more about that later. Yung mga federated regions,
that's right,
Professor. Right. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Still to come. Lawless violence as one of the grounds to declare martial law. CONCOM member Ed Tayao will still be with us after the break. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Consultative Committee member Ed Tayao. Okay, Professor, let's go to the federated regions.
Okay.
So what will be the features? Ilan po? And then how many senators?
Dito kami medyo nagtagal sa totoo lang kasi maraming nagsasabi na hindi kaya, so hindi pa ready. Yung laging sinasabi na yung timing hindi pa ready. It's not a question of readiness. Pag tinignan mo lahat ng bansa na nag-adapt ng federal setup, kahit nga parliamentary setup, it's not a question of timing. It's a question of opportunity. If you compare all the other opportunities before that wanted to introduce changes to the current setup, all of which failed mainly because of timing, mainly because the opportunity was not really used up to the fullest. But this president, despite all this negative comments on his person and so on and so on, whether we like it or not, he's the only political leader that started this issue early on, even before he even formally declared that he's running for president. So in other words, this is seen by many, by the public, as wag na yung sincerity, but the vigor, and seriousness of the president to push for systemic reform. So this is the reason why dati pag tinignan mo yung mga ibang initiatives to change the constitution, they have not gone to the computation of cents to the point of how much amount of money will accrue to who, and how will this impact on the delivery of basic services and so on. Ngayon lang nangyari yung ganong pagkakataon. So having said that, yung sinasabi nila na hindi ready yung mga regions, actually, again, compared to all the federal democracies, halos pare-pareho yan. It's a mechanism, really, sabi nila, hindi daw magiging sustainable yung mga federated regions. If you tell me one federal country that has a subnational government that doesn't get fund transfers from the national government, then we can very well say that we were wrong. But not even Canada, not even the United States, not even Australia, these are the leading federal democracies, but there are still fund transfers. In other words, the basis for the forming of subnational governments would have to be what is existing now, because what you want to manage is the disruption that it might cause. So we're starting with the existing regions without prejudice to the possibility that the smaller regions will converge later and therefore end up with lesser number of federated regions. So we're starting with 18 federated regions because these are the existing regions as it is already. The 18 federated regions already includes Bangsamoro and the Cordillera. And
then you have how many senators and other representatives?
Senators will be elected by regions now, two senators per region. In all federal democracies, again, the second chamber is always the one that represents the regions. They don't represent the people directly, but the regions. So that's why the basis for membership in the Senate is the constituent units, which is the federated regions.
Okay, pero meron pa rin tayo na presidente, yun nga, tandem ng president and vice president, hindi yung parang setup na sinasabi dati dati na baka Prime Minister.
Hindi, yun yung isa sa mga mahabang debate din, no, sa komite. Kasi halimbawa, yung katulad ko ni Dean July Tihanki at actually isang boto lang ang naging diferensya nung proposal namin na hybrid na may presidente at merong Prime Minister. Kasi yun na nga, consistent sana doon sa pagpapalakas ng political party yung modelong pinopropose namin. Pero we came up with the compromise, no, that you elect the President and Vice President as a tandem, and hence still consistent with party-based politics that we've been pushing for at the outset, no. So meron ka pa yung Presidente at Vice Presidente, pero yung pag-nominate ng Presidente at Vice Presidente medyo mas critical na ngayon. Hindi na katulad ng araw na pagka-popular ka at i-anoint ka, okay na. Hindi. You have to be nominated by a political party.
And then you have to be a college degree holder.
That's right.
Para saan po to? For all the positions?
For all the positions up to the mayoral level.
Wow, dati walang ganun, di ba? Why?
Medyo
Why?
mahaba ding debate yan at hindi naman lahat ng mga miyembro ng komite ay pabor dyan kasi meron din kasing plus and minus dyan. Ano? At pag tinignan mo naman yung mga nakaraang, yung mga naging batikan nating mga senador at mga naging leader nung araw, hindi naman lahat yung mga yan nakapag-aral pero napatunayan na meron silang angking galing. Ano? So, pero ngayon kasi ang nakikita ng iba sa amin sa komite ay kailangan mo talagang lagyan ng ganyan minimum requirement para at least halimbawa kung sa Senado ka tatakbo, maaari kang makipagtalakayan talaga ng malaliman doon sa mga kapwa mong miyembro ng Senado.
Hindi ba siya parang discriminatory naman?
Actually, yun yung kabilang side noon. Ano? Pero yun na nga, we have to weigh it. Yung discrimination kasi, ang naging usapan na noon, ngayon kasi binibigyan na ng Estado ng suporta, no? Ng sapat na ayuda ang edukasyon na mas malaki na yung pagkakataon na makapag-aral ka hanggang kolehiyo na wala kang ginagasto dahil ito ay suportado na ng Estado.
But moving on from here, sabi nyo nga may mga several drafts pa. Anong tinitignan yung timeline?
Actually, ang timeline mo dapat talaga makapag-plebisito ka bago mag-midterm election. Kasi
2019.
That's right.
No, 2019 na plebiscite or 2022?
Hindi na aabot ang pag nag-2022 ka pa na plebiscite, paano pa yung transition mo? So dapat ang transition mo within the term of the president. That's why the president, even when we were sworn into office, no, paulit-ulit niyang sinasabi niyan, 2020 uuwi na ako sa Davao. Yun ang lagi niya sinasabi kasi nakikita na niya na kapag meron ng bagong saligang batas at pumasa sa plebisito, ibig sabihin meron ng bagong gobyerno at maaari na mag-elect ng bagong pangulo, no? So ang tinitingnan natin dito kapag may plebisito bago mag-midterm election, no, yung darating na election under the new constitution na. So depende na sa pag-uusap nila kung paano ang transition ng mangyayari.
So this will be separate from the midterm na May 2019?
That's right. Sa madaling sabi, pwede mong sabihin na wala ng midterm election pero hindi dahil wala ng election. Kung hindi yung magiging election under the new constitution na.
The transition
hindi ibig sabihin na wala ng midterm election 2022 na hindi ganon, no? Kung hindi, nauna lang si plebisito at yung susunod na election, siguro a few months after the plebiscite, it's not a midterm election but the first election under the new constitution.
Okay. Pero Professor, have we settled yung paraan kung paano siya aamyendahan? Constitutional Assembly, CONAS, or Constitutional?
Sa totoo lang, yun din, hindi din kasama sa mandato namin.
Wala pa siya.
Hindi. Ang Kongreso talaga ang magdedesisyon dyan.
Alright.
No? May dalawa silang, sa pagkakaintindi ko, meron silang dalawang panukala dito na yun na nga, sila ay uupo bilang isang Constituent Assembly o magtatawag ng isang Constitutional Convention. No? At yung Constitutional Convention, depende naman ng detalye niyan sa magiging resolusyon ng parehong Kamara.
So wala kayong recommendation kung anong paraan?
Wala kaming rekomendasyon ganun kasi yan ay political decision na hindi na kasama doon sa mandato namin na gumawa at magbalangkas ng bagong saligang batas.
Okay. Professor, isa na lang. Isa dun sa issue is yung bagong ground for martial law. You included lawless violence kasi in the past it's just invasion or rebellion and if public safety requires it. Now, you can declare martial law in case of lawless violence. Can you define that, sir?
Yung lawless violence kasi all-encompassing. Marami na kasi pwedeng panggalingan ngayon. Ano? Kahit yung terrorism, dati hindi mo naman masasabi na kasama yan doon sa basis ng deklarasyon ng martial law. Ngayon, may mga indikasyon na po pwede nang maging basehan sa pagdeklara ng martial law. Pero pag tinignan mo din yung provision, mas mahigpit yung paggamit nito, pagdeklara nito, no? Lalo na doon sa participation ng Congress.
Why? Ano bago naman in terms of ensuring na mas mahigpit? Kasi you mentioned, sir, all-encompassing nga kasi itong lawless violence. So anong safeguard na mas mahigpit, sabi nyo?
Ang safeguard dito, hindi ibig sabihin na pag meron ka ng martial law, may suspension ka na kagad ng writ of habeas corpus. No? So meron pa din, magfa-function pa din ng courts. No? At ito ay nakadepende lahat sa pag-ayuda ng Kongreso. Hindi porke nagdeklara ng martial law, okay
automatic
na kaagad.
yung habeas corpus.
That's
Pero
right.
like cyber attacks and yung sinabi yung terrorism,
Hindi, yung cyber
no.
attack kasama lang yun dun sa napag-usapan. But ang cyber attack naman, hindi naman ibig sabihin na magkakaroon ka kagad ng breakdown of law and order. So yung lawless violence na tinatawag, kaya nga namin in-specify na violence. Ibig sabihin talagang may gulo dyan, may namamatay dyan, may sunog dyan, no, na nagkakagulo mga, yun yung tinatawag natin na lawless violence. Pero pag yung cyber attack is only an indication that there might be an a start of or a possibility of it, but it doesn't constitute
na yun mismo. So
that's right.
parang warning lang, possibly warning.
Hindi yun enough to call or to justify the declaration of martial law.
Okay, but babalikan namin si Professor Tayao. We'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Consultative Committee member Ed Tayao. Professor, you were saying kanina this is just the first draft. So,
right.
Do we expect several drafts? Sabi niyo magko-consultations pa kayo?
Actually, yun nga, nagsimula na yung consultations at alam mo, ang siguro pinaka-controversial na naging part nung initial draft namin ay yung pag-ban ng political dynasties to second degree. Kasi dito, kahit na halimbawa ang kapatid mo ay tumatakbo sa ibang probinsya, bawal pa din. Ano? So malisabi, kung may kapatid ka kahit sa Mindanao siya tumatakbo at ikaw ay nasa Luzon, bawal pa din yun. No? Ang pwede ka magkaroon ng kamag-anak pag national ang position. Pero ang national position mo ngayon hindi nakasama ang Senado. So napaka-limitado ng pagkakataon na magkaroon ka ng kamag-anak. Pangalawa, hindi pwedeng pagtapos na yung term limits. Ang term limit kasi ngayon, isang re-election lang eh. Naging 4 years. No? Ang rason kung bakit naging 4 years kasi yung 3 taon na napatunayan na talagang napaka-ikli nito, lalo na kung bago ang magiging mananalo sa isang elected position. No? So yung second year mo, doon ka palang nakaka-adjust doon sa posisyon mo. And yung third year mo, kampanya na naman. No? So kaya ginawa namin 4 years, pero isa lang ang re-election. Ngayon, kung matatapos na yung termino mo, hindi pwedeng yung kapatid mo o yung asawa mo o yung anak mo ang papalit sa'yo. No? So bawal yon.
So ang sinasabi nila siguro direct example daw pag si President Duterte, Mayor Sara Duterte
Hindi
cannot
pwede.
run for
Yan,
diba, President?
hindi
Parang
pwede.
lalabas dalawa lang sa pamilya kasi isang national
Yes, that's
and
right.
isang
Actually, yung,
local.
alibawa, di matatapos ang termino ni Presidente Duterte, hindi pwedeng si Sara ang papalit o kung sinong anak niya. So, pwedeng tumakbo si Mayor Inday sa local, no? At siguro pagkatapos ng isang term of office ng isang president, pwede siyang tumakbong presidente. Pero yung hindi pwede na yon.
Okay. Ang daming pwedeng pag-usapan. Very short lang, what is the heart of this new constitution?
The heart of this constitution is really the changing of the rules of the game. We've always been arguing that kultura ng Pilipino hindi marunong sumunod sa rules and regulations na ang kultura natin personality politics. No. Basically, when we change the rules of the game, we change political behavior. It's not a question of culture. It's a question simply of political behavior.
Okay, very well said. Thank you very much to Professor Edmund Tayao, and thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Ruth Cabal. You're watching CNN Philippines.